Hi, everybody. We're back with a conversation with one of our favorite people, Misty SOLDwisch of Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate Innovations. Hi, Misty.
Hey, Van. How are you?
I'm doing just great. I want to talk about something today that I've run into this a few times, but I know a lot of people have. You sell homes, and you have a lot of clients, and they run into the home inspection issue. What is that? Is that something you have to have before you sell your home? Or how does that whole thing work?
Yeah. So a home inspection is part of many real estate transactions, but it depends on different factors. So if someone wants to have a home inspection, they need to negotiate it into their purchase agreement.
So you're talking about a buyer.
A buyer needs to, if they're wanting to have that completed, it has to be a term of the agreement in order to have the right to do that. So when we're working with the seller and kind of explaining to them what the process is going to be, we let them know that this is something that a buyer may request, and in our market, most of the time they do, and what they need to do to prepare for that process and what to expect.
So they're thinking maybe there's going to be some landmines with who knows what, plumbing or electric or something, and they want to know about that ahead of time.
Well, yeah, the purpose from a buyer's perspective is to make sure when you are making this large financial purchase that you have a true understanding of what it is that you're buying, because most of us aren't expert plumbers, electricians, foundation experts, things like that. And so just having a general overview of the condition of the property, things that might not be obvious just by looking over the home in a general way, that's the way you go about that. And home inspectors they do not have a special license in our state.
They're private business people, right?
They're private business people. There are different home inspection organizations that give certifications, but it's nothing from an official state perspective. So the first thing is to understand that home inspectors all have very different arbitrary perspectives, which that makes it a little more muddled in the process. But as a seller, when someone asks for a home inspection to be done, generally it's going to be done within the first 7 to 14 days of your purchase agreement. So when there is a contingency for a home inspection, we want to make sure as real estate agents it gets done up front so that everyone knows what to expect, and is this transaction going to proceed the way we expect it's going to.
So is that something you can have done ahead of time before that, or not, because they want it to be as current as possible?
So that's interesting that you ask that, Van, because we actually do have a listing program for our sellers that encourages a pre-market home inspection that they do. So when a home inspection is performed, it usually takes, depending on the size of the home, 1.5 hours to 3 hours. And that inspector looks at the home from top to bottom. They get up on the roof. They look at the exterior of the chimney. If there is one, they get in the attic space, take photos of what's there. They look at the electrical panel. They open up the furnace and see how it's functioning. They check out all the outlets in your home. They look under every sink and see if there's any leaking or anything done incorrectly. So they look over everything. Now, as a seller, we like to have sellers eliminate as many surprises as possible, because I've just found over the years that's the most stressful part of the process.
I'll bet.
I mean, it's kind of a vulnerable place as a seller when someone's like looking through all your business and things that, and most of us take care of our homes.
But almost everybody knows about the chinks in the armor or some weaknesses before you even get somebody in there.
But a lot of times we find the things that are really there's a lot of surprises that happen that had you known about it, you would have taken care of it, but you just had no idea because you didn't see it.
Yeah.
So as a seller, doing that inspection before the property even hits the market, that helps you be in control of how this experience is going to happen.
Yeah.
So instead of the buyer's home inspector kind of calling the shots on the direction the transaction is going to take, you have a great idea of the condition of your home and the items that a buyer might be interested in mitigating. And you can negotiate your sale based on having all of that information instead of what happens to most sellers that don't do that. You negotiate your price, and then the buyer's home inspector comes in. They look over everything, and then the buyer gives a list of things they want the seller to correct. And you're like, wait a minute, we already had this deal together. So it's a second negotiation in the process.
Yeah.
We like being able to control that as much as possible with that pre-market home inspection.
There may not be a good answer to this, but I mean, is there a ballpark figure what a home inspection costs these days?
Yeah, so it depends on all of the different things that you do. So a general home inspection of just looking over the house itself, the interior and the exterior of the home, runs between $300 to $500, depending on the company and then exactly what their scope is, that sort of thing. But then there's some additional inspections that are kind of add-ons to that general home inspection. One is a radon test, and in the state of Iowa, we are a huge radon state.
I know.
I mean, and that is a radioactive element that comes out of the earth. And the trick,
usually like in the basements, that's usually discovered first.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it will kind of pool in the basement. Super, super easy to mitigate, and the cost of mitigation has gone down dramatically over the 20 years that I've been an agent. So it's not expensive to take care of, but it is something that you don't know that you have it until you do the test.
Yeah.
Testing for that is usually $75 to $125. The other thing that is part of a potential home inspection is doing a sewer scope. So running a camera down the sewer line and determine.
What's that for? To make sure you don't get plugged up later on or something in the sewer?
You know, a lot of the neighborhoods around the metro that were built during wartime have what's called Orangeburg lines. Basically tar paper.
Wow.
And so it was meant as kind of a temporary sewer material to preserve metal. And yet, here we are,
we don't do
70 years later, and there's so a lot of times there can be unexpected breaks, and that is an expensive thing to repair. The other thing that we see inspected is a pest inspection for termites. So there's the general home inspection and then add-ons.
Well, as you can tell by listening to us, there's a lot involved in this, and that's why it's so good to know somebody like Misty. Misty SOLDwisch of Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate Innovations. And if you want to talk to somebody on her team or her, that's 515-446-4445. That's 515-446-4445, or you could go to soldincentraliowa.com. I learn something every single time I talk, usually lots of something. But thank you, Misty.
Thanks so much.
You bet.